For centuries, prophets warned humanity of a great trial. One day, the Holy Prophet Muhammad, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, stood before his people. He praised Allah. Then he spoke about Dajjal. And he said, I warn you against him. There was no prophet except that he warned his nation about him. Even Noah warned his people. But I will tell you something no prophet told his people before me. You should know that he is one-eyed, and Allah is not one-eyed. No prophet neglected this warning. From Noah to Abraham to Moses to Jesus, peace be upon them. And finally, Muhammad, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. The message was consistent. A great trial would come upon humanity. A trial so severe that the Holy Prophet Muhammad, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, instructed believers to seek refuge from it in their prayers. But what exactly is Dajjal? Is it a one-eyed monster the world is waiting for? Or is the reality far more complex than we imagine? The word Dajjal carries a powerful meaning in Arabic. It refers to one who covers the truth with falsehood, a deceiver, someone who appears righteous on the outside while spreading corruption within. Classical Arabic lexicons also explain that the word can apply not only to a single individual, but also to a group of people. A people who present themselves as enlightened, trustworthy, even moral, but who spread misguidance disguised as truth. So the prophecy of Dajjal does not merely describe a man, it describes an age of deception, a group, a system, an era where falsehood becomes convincing. In our time, deception spreads in ways earlier generations could never imagine. Through media and artificial intelligence, deception can be created so convincingly that truth itself becomes difficult to recognize. The Qur'an tells us that Satan asked for respite. He said, My Lord, grant me respite till the day they are raised. Satan does not act alone. He works through systems, through ideas, through powerful institutions, through civilizations. In the Hadith, the Dajjal mentioned is none other than Satan himself, spreading deception in the latter days until he is finally defeated. But the Holy Prophet, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, did not leave this deception hidden. He described signs by which it could be recognized. The Holy Prophet, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, did not just describe one sign of Dajjal. Across his teachings, he shared several extraordinary signs that would allow us to recognize the age of deception. One of the most striking is what he called the donkey of Dajjal. It would travel the earth with incredible speed. It would consume fire. It would carry people inside its belly. It would announce departures. It would cross distances in hours that once required months. For centuries, these descriptions seemed mysterious, but today they resemble something very familiar. Trains, ships, aircraft, machines that carry people across the world. Another hadith describes a defining sign of the great Dajjal. He will defy Jesus. He will promote the doctrine of salvation through the cross. The Prophet Muhammad, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, said the Messiah would come and break the cross. This does not mean breaking wood. It means defeating false theology. Because the greatest deception in human history is raising a human being to the status of a god. The heavens almost rupture from it. The earth splits apart, and the mountains collapse in devastation that they attribute a son to the most merciful. This belief would spread through books, preaching, institutions, and power. One eye blind, the other eye powerful. Blind spirituality, brilliant materially. The Qur'an also foretells the rise of Gog and Magog. Until when Gog and Magog are let loose, they shall hasten forth from every height. Their name is linked to the word Ajij, meaning fire. They would become masters in the use of fire. Their ships would run on fire. Their trains would run on fire. Their machines would run on fire. Their wars would be fought with fire. They would dominate every height, every sea, every mountain, every sky. These signs clearly point toward none other than the modern European powers and the nations of the West. Some ahadith say Gog and Magog will dominate the world. Other narrations say Christians will dominate the world. And other ahadith describe the influence of Dajjal spreading across the entire earth. At first glance, these prophecies seem contradictory, but they are not. They're describing different faces of the same age. Gog and Magog represent global political and military power. Dajjal represents the system of deception that controls minds and beliefs. And Christian clergy represent the spread of cross-centered theology across nations. Three deceptions, three forces, but in reality they operate within the same global order. Different roles, different appearances, one system. And when these signs appear across the world, the question becomes, how does humanity protect itself from such a trial? The Holy Prophet Muhammad, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, did not leave the believers without guidance. He gave them a protection. He said, whoever recites the first 10 verses and the last 10 verses of Surah Al-Kahf will be protected from the trial of Dajjal. But something remarkable appears when we examine these verses. The name Dajjal is never mentioned in the chapter. Yet the chapter itself describes the forces that would define his age. The opening verses warn of a people who say, Allah has taken a son, a belief that spread across nations, and came to define the Christian world. The closing verses describe another people, a civilization consumed by material progress, inventing, discovering, mastering the forces of nature, yet believing they could unlock the very secrets of creation. Two characteristics: religious corruption and material domination. Together, they describe the modern Christian nations of the West. And this is why the Prophet, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, declared that the recitation of these verses would protect believers from the trial of Dajjal. Because Surah Al-Kahf exposes the very ideas, the ambitions, and the influence that would shape the age of Dajjal. And as these forces rise, the world enters a time of turmoil. The Qur'an also foretells a time of global turmoil. Nations will clash like waves of the sea. Conflicts will intensify. Religious disputes will multiply. Hatred and division will spread across the world. When this chaos reaches its peak, God raises a reformer. Just as a trumpeter breathes into his instrument, God will breathe his message into the heart of his messenger, and through that call, truth begins to gather people again. The Messiah will not defeat Dajjal through armies. He does not conquer nations with force, because the powers described in the prophecies are so great that no nation will be able to withstand them in battle. Instead, the promised Messiah will turn to his greatest weapon, prayer. Through prayer, truth, and the revival of faith, he exposes deception and restores the pure understanding of religion. He exposes false doctrines. He clarifies misunderstandings that have spread across the world. Because the greatest weapon of the Dajjal is deception. And deception cannot survive when truth becomes clear. For centuries, people have waited for a monster. A single man who would appear one day and deceive the world. The Dajjal is not just a person. It is a great system. An age where material power dominates, where truth becomes blurred, and where humanity is tested like never before. The question is not only who Dajjal is, the question is, are we living in his age? And will we recognize the truth when it appears? That is why the Prophet, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, taught believers to seek refuge with Allah from the trial of Al-Masih ad-Dajjal.